Yes, sir.
So we're good to go?
We're live.
All right, we're 1 minute and 17 seconds early, but we're going to call this meeting to order of the Reedsport School District, District 105. We have a quorum. Could you please stand? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Any changes to the agenda?
We do have a revised agenda provided, needs to be approved.
Then that would be the executive session added, and also number 3 under reports, Lewis Transportation.
Yes.
All right.
Make a motion to accept the agenda.
Pardon?
You want to make a motion?
Second.
Motion made by Kerry O and seconded by Bonnie Brewer to approve the revised agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous decision. Okay. Reports. Let's move right to the, where's the business manager?
Rachel is virtual because she's down south working, but she does have a report for you.
Okay, we'll call on Rachel out there in outer space.
I don't really have anything to share. There isn't very much change in the report between last month and this month. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Have you had a chance to look at that bond issue we talked about?
Yes, I have Lauren McMillan from Piper Sandler. I think they're Piper Sandler now, not Piper Jaffray. She's getting that information for me.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any questions of Rachel? Bob?
No.
Yeah?
No.
Mike?
No.
Gary? Okay, thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Enjoy the sunshine. Okay, we'll move right into the superintendent report. Mr. Zemke.
First, I've invited John Shivers from the hospital to come have a little bit of time with the board members, and it's fortuitous to have a noon meeting for him to be able to do it. So, John, I'm going to let you have the floor here for a little bit and go over your material there.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, John.
I'm John Shivers, CEO of Lower Umpqua Hospital District. I'm going to talk a little bit about the mental health needs in our community and what the hospital's doing to try to meet those needs and possible ways that the school might be able to help us as well. So a little bit of background. I mean, I don't think I need to tell anybody about the crisis in our country over the availability of healthcare services. The Oregon Health Plan is responsible for covering medical care of about 1.5 million low-income Oregonians, and that includes behavioral health needs. And the key word to me is they are responsible. So if you and I were responsible for something and it was in the condition that it is out there right now, you'd probably say we're failing. And if we're being held accountable for it, we probably would lose our jobs. It's really in bad shape. But there is actually something that they're doing well. But what it is many states pay way less than Oregon does for mental health services. So they compare rates to Medicare rates. Here in Oregon, we're on par with Medicare rates. That puts us one of only 8 states in the country that pay for mental health services on par with Medicare. So that's a really good thing. I was in California for a decade before I came back here. They ranked 49th out of 50 states, so not very good. So that's actually a really good thing that they pay well. But the issue is the massive workforce shortage. And that's aggravated by issues like burnout, large caseloads, and then administrative burdens that are put on the providers. So even though we have higher rates in Oregon, the state's not necessarily paying that much because we just don't have the providers. So despite the relatively high reimbursement rates in Oregon, we have one of the highest rates in the nation of population unable to access mental health services. And we have one of the highest rates of people that have mental health needs. So that data was provided to us by OHSU and the Mental Health of America. And then there's some data that you probably are aware of. So in 2021, an estimated 3.7 million adolescents, so 12 to 17, in the United States had at least one major depressive episode with severe impairment. So that's about 15% of the US population at that age. And out of those 3.7 million kids, only about 40% actually got some sort of treatment for that. There was a survey of students in US high schools also in 2021, where 10% of the boys and 22% of the girls reported suicide ideation in the previous year. So while that's common in the context of depression, and many kids have those thoughts and don't act on them, still that symptom needs to be taken very seriously. So that data was accumulated in 2021, so that was the second year of the pandemic. We're coming up on the 4th anniversary now. And while it's officially over, according to the government, the effects are still with us and probably will be with us for a long time. So here's what we're doing at Little Runquaw. So we've been without a mental health provider since August of 2022, and we've been recruiting steadily since then. Our partners haven't brought us a single candidate in that time. So as a result, we're stepping up our recruitment efforts. We're using a retained recruiter now as opposed to a contingent recruiter. And we've used this recruiter before, and we've had really good success with them. So we're feeling optimistic that we'll get a provider fairly soon. And specifically, we're recruiting for a licensed clinical social worker, or LCSW. So I'm also in the process of reviewing a contract for distant providers. Now, that's not an ideal approach, but it could be used as a stopgap measure. So what that means is patients come to us in our clinic and through telehealth, they're talking to a provider that could be anywhere in the country. So there's some issues with that. So even if the provider, no matter where the provider is in the country, they still have to be licensed in Oregon. So that's a barrier to that. And then we have to credential those providers to get privileges at the hospital. So even if we get a complete credentialing packet from the company, it still takes us 60 to 90 days to complete the credentialing process. So even if I signed a contract today, we'd be looking at probably 3 months before we could actually take care of a patient. But under that scenario, we're paid as what's called an originating site. So the patient's in our site and the provider's called the distant site. Reimbursement for originating sites is really low. We would actually get paid $28.64 for a visit as the originating site. Now, the distant site provider could bill the health insurance for their visit, but if you're in Oklahoma, you're probably not going to want to get credentialed with some payer in Oregon who you might use one time. So they usually don't want to do their billing. They want us just to pay them. And then unfortunately, by the rules as they stand today, we're not able to bill the payers either. So we would basically get $28. The provider, like for an LCSW under contract, would be about $145 an hour. So even if you could squeeze 4 patients in an hour, we'd still be subsidizing at about $45 an hour. So this is something I think where John and I can talk and we can look at something on a per patient basis or per student basis. We might be able to come up with something that maybe split that subsidy. A much better option, of course, for us to hire our own LCSW. The Oregon Health Plan and Trillium both cover significant mental health services. That includes one-on-one face-to-face therapy, one-on-one telehealth therapy, family-based sessions, and that they cover both face-to-face and telehealth for family-based. They pay for group therapy, multifamily therapy, and they actually pay for alcohol and drug treatment in a whole variety of settings. So with our own therapists, we can see patients in the clinic, and this is something brand new now. It started during the pandemic and has now been made permanent for mental health services, is that our provider in the clinic could see a patient telehealth that's here in the school or even at their home, and we would get paid our full clinic rate, which is about $240 a visit. So much better option there. There'd be no subsidy that we'd have to be talking about in that situation. So, but there is a wrinkle there. So it's kind of interesting. So in the state, the age of consent for mental health services is 14, but neither Trillium nor OHP would allow a minor to sign up and get their own coverage. So while they wouldn't have to tell their parents they're getting the services, and we'd be within our legal bounds of providing it, there'd be no source for payment. There is a couple exceptions, but those exceptions aren't very good. If the patient or the student was homeless or runaway or emancipated, we could help them get coverage, but those are the 3 exceptions. And then I'd like to mention also, just so you know, if families need assistance in applying for OHP or Trillium, they can come to the hospital and we have resources and staff to help make that happen. Our only caveat is we can't recommend one over the other. So any questions on any of that?
John, is this just for outpatient services, nothing inpatient?
Well, we wouldn't be hiring, like, that would take a psychiatrist to do inpatient, and we're not looking for that.
Okay.
John, what do you want the school board to do?
Well,
I'm missing that connection.
So if we got that LCSW, we're in good shape. If we have to use distance services, then maybe we could talk and work out a way where maybe the school would pay a little bit of the subsidy and we'd pay a little bit of the subsidy to make that happen.
I had approached John a month ago about how do we work something out. We both recognize there's a community need. I happen to have a common place where students are available during the daytime, and we have students where we believe that there is a need for licensed clinical services. How do we work this out? I can't afford it on my own. John probably, if he had a position, needs a ready audience base of people who would access it, that there's got to be a partnership there somewhere. So that's where this discussion originated from. And before I come out and make any announcements or anything, I wanted to even find out what our capacity was. That's why the report today. I just trying to find different ways to leverage partnerships for opportunities for our kids when some of these needs that we see.
What's your timeline for getting this on board and getting it moving, John?
Well, like I said, it's trying to get the provider. So I do feel optimistic using this particular firm that we could probably see a provider here as quickly as 60 days. I mean, they've been able to do turnarounds like that for us before. So, what we're offering to pay is definitely on the high side of the scale for that type of service. So, I'm optimistic. You got to find somebody that wants to move here.
Yeah.
And often the biggest barrier usually is the spouse. So while a provider's happy to come here, is there work for a spouse if they have a working spouse, that kind of thing. So sometimes we're lucky we get 2 for 1. We'll get a nurse plus a provider, that kind of thing, but that's a barrier.
Mrs. Donna, you have an extra room at your house, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I also have a master's degree in counseling, but
You're hired.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Shivers?
So I like some of the things I just wanted to mention real quick, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So just by coincidence, this morning, there was a front page article in the Wall Street Journal called "Children in Mental Health Crisis Surge into Hospital ER." So I brought some copies of that for you guys if you want to read it. It's pretty interesting. So there's a section in that article that talks about boarding in the ED. And so we have patients coming into our ED, children and adults that have mental health needs. They don't really have medical needs, but because of EMTALA laws, we have to hold them until we can find a place to send them. And so we end up with kids and adults staying in our hospital in the emergency room, although we actually put them in a room, but they're technically emergency patients for often a long, long time. I have one today, right now, that's on day 14, waiting for placement. So, we constantly, our associations lobby the state to pass laws to help accommodate that, because we don't get paid for that. I have a patient in my hospital 14 days that we're housing and feeding and taking care of, not medically. But I have to have a sitter with that person 24 hours a day so that they don't harm themselves or get out of the room and harm somebody else. So it's quite a problem, actually.
I'm sorry, how do you determine placement and where we got, how do you determine placement and where that placement might go?
So there's facilities in the state that typically would take these patients, but often these patients become known. And like, for instance, the patient we have right now is known. So Bay Area Hospital will take mental health. They have an open mental health ward right now, but they know the patient and they won't take the patient because of their experience with the patient. There's a hospital up in Salem that has a ward, and that's where this patient actually came from most recently. And they have a 25-bed unit. They only have 5 patients, but right now they're having a COVID outbreak, so they're not taking patients. So I'm glad to hear COVID is over, but it affects us every single day.
So
So
doesn't take juveniles, do they?
I'm not sure about that. I'd have to check on that.
I know before I retired, if we had the juvenile mental health patient, we had to take them to Roseburg to Mercy, and but they would take the adults up there on the 3rd floor, so,
Right.
but they wouldn't take any juveniles.
And then the very last thing I just want to mention is, so our rehab department, so physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy is fully staffed with equipment and licensed staff that can take care of pediatric patients. So basically, there's no minimum age. So if we ever run into children in the schools that might need that kind of service, we're fully able to take care of them as well. So
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
thank you, guys.
John being the first part, I just wanted to alert the board. We've talked about it in the past that we do have our esports team up and running. Coach Adams works with the students after school for a couple hours. They practice like a varsity team. And I don't know if there's a specific timeline for OSAA, but OSAA has having a pretty regular conversation about that being one of the activities that they cover. So if there's any interest in a work session, just to pop over and see what that looks like. Sometimes people talk about esports, and unless you've seen it, it's kind of difficult to imagine how computer games fit into a interscholastic activity. But it's a regular event for us, and we're in our 2nd year. If there's any interest, I would put together a work session, let them know we're coming, and just so you can put eyes on it and you can have an understanding of what it is. Along similar lines of work sessions, there's 2 that I will be scheduling and sending out. So I guess just information for you right now. We're going to set up a work session to go through the libraries, the 2 buildings, and we'll publicize a date and time for that so that board members can do that. There's also a request, Rachel, online for a budget primer before we go into budgeting in the winter months, to just understand the document a little bit more detail. We did something like that last night for the licensed teachers. Their association requested a sit down to kind of learn about the budget document, what the codes mean, where monies are at, how revenue sources work. So we just did a pretty open Q&A with them last night. We'll do that 2 more times before we get around to bargaining with them. So they wanted to have an understanding of, before they come in with an ask for money, what's our budget going to look like? That was basically the root of that discussion. So when I work out a date and time with Rachel, we'll set up a work session for board members to also get another primer reminder, and we'll publicize the date and time for that. So to be announced, coming down the pike your direction. I'll get to Lewis class. A couple items. So John asked for, you got copies of that Wall Street Journal article. The second one coming along is a letter that our Special Programs Director, Kareem Ross, gave to families electronically, so Jack, you pass those down. Wednesday, the 15th, next week, from 5:30 to 7, there is a family night. It's described in the letter, so you want to make sure board members have copies of that and what all will be going on, what it's for. High school sent over a report, just sort of where things are at. Their big item of note was last Thursday night, they had an end of quarter 3.0 celebration dinner. They did it in a time when they normally conduct parent-teacher conferences. And I think the feeling was that because parent-teacher conferences tend to be under-attended at the junior high school level, and what else could be done to make good use of the time, they developed an idea of a celebration dinner for students who have a 3.0 or higher. And Jerry's notes indicate 180 people were there. So between all the staff being available to sit down at tables with students and families to just discuss the great things that had happened in the quarter. And just, I think there were some other activities and door prizes, was not able to make it, but an interesting idea to celebrate and draw families in during conference time, talk about what's happening in the school using a different mechanism than just traditional parent-teacher conferences. They did do parent-teacher conferences that night for an hour before, an hour after, and then the following Friday, because there probably was still a need and a calling for that. They just wanted to try something different, and it sounds to me like it's pretty successful. They worked with Chef Thomas to get food put together through our program, so pretty controllable cost, and I think it's a pretty sustainable activity. That's something that they want to pursue in the future. He also makes note in his report that the boys cross country team finished up well. They won districts and were able to participate in state. They didn't score probably as well as they wanted to in state. I think at that level, the competition level changes, and this will be a good learning year for them because every member of that team returns next year. So we can expect probably more great things, all of them run again with the experience they had in many districts and going to state. The little gym, the auxiliary gym, when I was in there yesterday morning, it's been painted, it's been scuffed, sanded lightly because the finish is supposed to go on. The finish window has to dry for at least 7 days, so we have at least a week before it's usable. But with the junior high basketball coming up, and then all the varsity and JV boys and girls that'll be going on, we're going to need that second space. So probably timing it right to get that started. Would have been nice to have it done start of summer. And initially we wanted to, but at least we're going to get it done here soon. From the counseling department, there's a parent night tonight from 6 to 7 for the Aspire program. And so that's just something they wanted me to read out to the record. The last thing I have is a question for the board to probably answer, and maybe it's in the board discussion or you can address it now. The district leadership team and the charter advisory committee, two groups that formed either before this board or as part of this board hiring me many years ago. They want to be sure that they understand what this current board wants from them. What is the ask that you have of a district leadership team? What is the ask that you have of a charter advisory committee? You are the school board of the charter school. And ultimately the policy and budget work all goes through you, but you have these two groups of representatives and they'd kind of like to know what you want them to be working on. That's the gist of the question. So address that later in discussion. You want to popcorn it now? What's your pleasure?
Chair?
Anybody have desire one way or the other? Does anybody have any wants or?
I'd rather wait till later. so I could kind of read up on what they're
Okay.
supposed to do, or they have a mission statement or whatever, I don't know.
I'd also like maybe some written feedback from both groups,
Okay,
just on the work that they have been doing, especially the Charter Advisory Committee. I think that there's sort of a body of work there that we've not been presented with. District leadership team had some other goals last year, and I think we're
yeah, I'd like to
successful.
reread them myself, so.
Yeah, refresher would be nice.
So if they can put together a written synopsis
Okay.
of maybe what they were able to accomplish up till now, and if they were to continue their work, what would they like to do and where would they like to go? I know that they're asking us for that input, but we need a ground level foundation for what their work is,
Okay, so
because we
what I'm-
don't get regular feedback about that work. Does that make sense?
Yep, so what I'm hearing, some of the primary material, mission, vision, statements, written feedback on the work that they have done up to this point, and potentially what they see themselves doing.
If
For the
they
board
were
to consider
considering
if
future.
they continue. Okay, I will get feedback and bring that in December. Thank you.
And John, were you gonna just enlighten us a little bit on, number 3 on the reports?
Yep. Lewis Transportation is our contract provider in this school district. We've got a longstanding relationship with them. They approached me in the summer about pursuing a grant to get into electric buses. They want to develop their infrastructure, their bus barn in a way, and then purchase 9 buses as part of a movement towards making this work happen. There's a lot of incentives out there. They are in collaboration and contract with a grant writing group to help this happen, and they are feeling good about their odds of success. As a school district, we would be the recipients of that, but the group who does recipients of electric vehicles in our district.
We'd work as the pass-through for them.
What's that?
We'd work as the pass-through for them.
Right. We, being the district who receives the services, we need to be clear that and the contractor who is writing the grants wants all parties to be clear who's going to own the buses, who's responsible for things. Lewis Transportation wants to take on all the responsibility. They want to own the buses. We are the direct recipients. So our board needs to acknowledge that this work is happening, that we understand that they're doing it. They're going to put in the infrastructure, own the infrastructure, buy the buses, own the buses, and continue to operate. We're going to maintain our contract for the services, but this grant writing is no financial obligation on our part, and we're not any real recipients of direct outcome from it. We'll get the services provided by Lewis Transportation, whether it be the buses they have now or the electric buses they might own in the future, but really we don't have a stake in the grant writer helping Lewis make this happen. Is it saying that clearly?
But are we still liable in any way as the pass-through organization
No,
for any of the grant writing
no.
and function of that?
We are the indirect recipients. I think if you look at a lot of school districts, many of them own their own transportation, and then the district is much more liable. This is a contracted a vendor for us. So this is on the vendor, but we are receiving all the benefit of the work.
And they're
But we don't own
contracting their
anything.
own grant writer, right?
Say again.
They're contracting their own grant
They have
writer.
found a grant writing company who helps them specifically do this type of work, and I might know the name of it here. Yeah, BYD Coach and Bus LLC. Or they go by Ride Coach and Bus is the group that is helping Lewis Transportation with this. And so they just want us to be aware and acknowledge that we are aware that this has been going on and it's happening.
Would that increase our funding, what we pay Lewis Transportation if this comes to fruition?
We haven't negotiated anything like that. We still have a contract in place for services at contract rate we have. So no,
When does the contract end?
we review it annually.
Annually?
I have a question.
Rachel,
Is this grant in our name or in Lewis Transportation's name?
The way I understood it was gonna be in Lewis Transportation's name.
Rachel, by signing a certified and authorized rep of Reedsport School District Board, and the applicant has made us aware, their applicant is applying for the 2023 Clean Bus Rebate Program. Also certifying discussion with the applicant. We've discussed the number of buses as 9 being replaced, fuel type of the new buses, and which party will own the buses.
So we have contract language right now that we have to front the money for buses to them. So if the grant isn't in our name, then we need to make sure that we have some kind of language saying that the buses purchased under the grant need to be paid for by Lewis Transportation and not us, because we don't have any way to recoup that money from the grant if it's not in our name.
In our contract, then, what you're saying.
Yes, our contract with them says that we front the money on buses and then they basically deduct it from invoices throughout the year.
That'll be interesting to see how an electric bus goes 27 miles up Smith or up Ash Valley.
Yeah.
Oh, the battery went down, what do we do?
I guess not having seen any of this on paper and not having a better understanding of it and having Rachel ask questions like she has, I would like to see more information. I mean, I think it's fine if we acknowledge to the bus barn that we're aware of this attempt to, you know, have these grants written in their favor. But I'd like to see more information.
Okay.
Because it
I don't
sounds
think it's gonna matter because we don't own the buses. I mean, he's gonna do what he's gotta do.
right,
especially
but
if he's under
we're
federal
a
mandate.
501c3 not writing the grants, but we're used as a pass-through for grants that are probably, I would guess, intended for like a nonprofit organization, but we're passing them through to corporate. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that I don't know and I don't understand yet about the process, and I would like to know more about the
I can
process.
get copies of the application from Susan for review.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Any questions?
Do they have a deadline for sign off?
Just the sooner the better. They want to have it. That's always what it is. I can have application copies out within a week. I'll just scan it to everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's move along. Community comments. These are individuals that may address the board on agenda items. Please let the board chair know what item is that you're going to address. You are limited to 3 minutes. You may address the board on the topic not on the agenda as long as it's not pertaining to a complaint against a staff member or a student. However, the board reserves the right to refer the matter to the administration. And we have one already signed up. Our own Mrs. Donnelly. And she wants to discuss reef.
I do. Bob, I have not met you yet. My name is Sandy Dunley. Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
Hi, Jack.
How you doing?
Bonnie. Karen.
Yeah, that kind of felt a little Becky-ish there.
Yeah, I did, didn't it?
Are you okay if Sandra takes the rest of the?
I just
articles
want
that
to,
John
I just
Sanders
would like to read one of these, is that right? Anybody else want one? Okay, school board people. I'm here talking about REEF, that's REEF. and that stands for the Reedsport Education Enrichment Foundation. I tell you that because we had a golf tournament. Thank you, Carrie, for attending that golf tournament, at which time we raised $6,779.50. And the money that we raised for REEF goes to the school children and staff. You are blessed to have two different groups in Reedsport. One of them is the Brave Boosters, and they provide enormous help for anything that has to do with sports. We're everything else. We're classrooms, we're teacher stipends. We spent money last night to upgrade the alcohol detector that our SRO has. We spent over $1,000 last month on the theater program. That sounds like it is going to be amazing. So I tell you that that's what we do. And we raised over $6,000 in a crazy golf tournament. We will have a dinner that is on March 16th. Please put that down, and I'll tell you in a minute why. The two people that will be honored there, the person that's going to be honored there is Joe Zielinski for the work that he has done in this district forever. Have you had the opportunity to meet Joe yet? Okay, he is Mr. Wonderful for this district, actually for this whole town. And we will have Chris Austin, who is a pilot and a past graduate of Reedsport, coming back to be the guest speaker. And okay, so I was a 1968 graduate of Reedsport High School. My picture's behind the door of her class. I am a retired educator. I actually worked for this district also at one point. And the reason I want to come and tell you about this is because I don't ever see you guys. I don't see you at the golf tournament. I don't see you at the dinner. Thank you. Yes. I don't see you at the events that we put on. And we would really like to see you.
I don't play golf.
Huh? You don't have to play golf for that particular golf tournament. And Kerry did not play golf. He helped with other kinds of things. But anyway, hey, we're out there. We are busting our butts to raise money for kids. And we've raised over $500,000 since our inception. But we don't get your support. Just saying, I see you guys at Brave Booster. I see you at the dinner. I don't see you at our events. And that's not.
I'll try to get there.
Yeah, that's not from Reed. That's
I'll
from
bring
me.
my cane.
You know, that's fine. That's from me as a Reedsport graduate. That's from me as a community member who's volunteering my time to be involved in that kind
I
of stuff.
busted my butt last December and November and
Oh,
October.
absolutely. Last year, we raised money at the Festival of Trees, which we will again be doing over at the School of Art, and love to see you on December 1st and December 2nd. Some of us are not going to be there on December 1st because we're assuming that's going to be a football game, so Mike Bedard's not going to be there. Anyway, that's my 3 minutes. You guys, come on. We work really hard to raise money for kids, but a lot of times we don't feel supported.
So, go ahead.
When do you meet, Reef? And where are you
Okay,
meeting
we
at?
meet now because of Patrick Raleigh's schedule. We meet at 6:30 on the first Tuesday of every month at the Lutheran Church in the library. You're definitely welcome to come.
6:30 on the first Tuesday. Oh, boy, no, I can't.
Every first Tuesday, yes. You're definitely welcome to come. Yes, Beth?
Oh, I was just gonna say, if you could arrange with the secretary to have invitations to the board
Absolutely.
here.
Absolutely. We would do that. We would do that.
You know, I know as a contributor to REEF and as a volunteer, I do receive them
Yes.
occasionally at home. It's kind of hit or miss sometimes. I
Okay.
don't always get
No,
everything.
we'll definitely do that.
But I'm also a working parent.
Because we
and-
try to get it in the board stuff that you receive in the coming events, like this is coming up, this is coming up, but we can do better at that and we will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sandy.
And by the way, Sandy was a very positive influence on our school board too. Just throwing that out there. Thank you.
She's still a positive influence on the school board.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any other community comments?
Mr. Jones, you have 2 written submissions for community comment, but there'll need to be an executive session. One deal with personnel, one deal with student. Do you have those?
Yes, I do.
So you'll need to retire to executive session for those.
Is there anything else? All right, at this time then I will close the open meeting and we'll move into executive session under ORS 192-660. As an executive session, any meeting or part of a meeting of a governing body closed to a certain person to consider dismissal or disciplining of, or to complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, individual agent who does not
Reverb. Is it else again?
Yeah.
Hey, Al, if you can hear us, I think we're getting a reverb off of something. Wasn't here previously. Now it's gone. Maybe that was a Sean's. No, it's gone. It's.
Okay, we're coming out of executive session. We will come back into open session. I'd like to acknowledge the letter we received on this date and time from Sarah Adams, the area president, and also to also Baby Brown and Coach Watts as receiving their additions to those letters. And we will be looking into that, all this information. So.
Chairman, you've also got the letter dated 11/18/23 from Gary Baker.
Yes, and also we received that letter from Mr. Baker, and we've taken that information and we will be addressing that as we receive our information, the questions we have. Okay, we'll move along into action items.
Consent.
Oh, excuse me, back to consent, yeah. These are actions that are routinely called for no discussion, such as approval of no minutes of previous meetings, acceptance of donations, and similar actions as often handled together in one vote of the board. We have the approval of the board meeting minutes from October 11th and approval of the new certified employee, Robin Reed, special education teacher for the elementary school. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second?
Second.
Approved by Bonnie, a second by Jack for to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Now into action items. Approve the CIA grant acceptance.
Annually, we need to approve the school investment account. This is a grant we received. It's a non-competitive grant. It's based on our ADM of students, and it's my total here. We have a total of $604,000, $604,000, $801. What's wrong there? Why can't I say that? 604,801 is our grant allocation. We've approved this the last couple of years. We are using those funds in several different ways. Part of that is school resource officer. We have money into school counseling, kindergarten transition from the Head Start programs in our summer boot camp, our social emotional employees, their trauma informed practices. There's a TIS activity there. Where's some of the others? I don't have a complete list here in front of me, so off the top of my head, it's funding that we know is stably coming from the state. And so our counseling, our SRO, and the other things that we have budgeted against that are positions that if the state were to suddenly take it away, we could still operate school at the classroom education level. These are resources that we find valuable to provide to students and families. So funding them against these particular grant monies is how Rachel and I have arranged. She's still on? She's not still on. So I just need to make sure that the board is aware of that, and we're going to continue to use those monies in the similar manner. There's no new great increase to this. It's just the standard roll up. So
Is that what this is, John?
no.
What is this?
Which one is that? Your packet?
It's activities and budget, but it doesn't, it's not. I mean, this may relate to John
Oh,
Shaver's
that's
stuff.
perfect. This is one I wanted. Yeah. School psychologist, salary and benefits, resource officer, nursing. We had a contracted service in ESD this year for community engagement, the partial FTE on the counselor, the staffing in SEL and trauma-informed supports, our tech coordinator, and some of the tutoring resources and community outreach, which tacks on with the athletic director position. So we have several ways that we're adding positions to our district that are not the classroom that we want to find value in, do find value in, and that's how they're lined out.
What is the community engagement from the ESD? What does that entail?
That's grant writing, and then there's a lot of the grants that we have to do right now, the non-competitive grants. They want, how did you get engagement from your stakeholders, from your students, from your families? So a lot of how are you responding to your surveys and creating your surveys and being sure that you have survey questions that are asking what concerns and what people appreciate about the way that money's getting spent. So we get some support from the ESD to a grant writer. We're transitioning that one away, and that's one of the smallest pockets of money. And as we bring Laura Lyle up in her position of state reporting and federal reports, that'll be something she picks up. So she's spending this year learning it, so we're going to retain that for one more year until she's up and running, and then
Thank you.
pull it back.
That's that question, right?
Yes, we did. Thank you.
Any other questions on the grant acceptance? That's information that doesn't require,
We need to have an action to accept the money.
entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the SIA grant acceptance.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Carrie O and seconded by Jack Daly to approve the grant acceptance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Court, and unanimously. All right, OSBA elections and resolutions.
So with the exception of Bob, this is what you heard a little bit from OSBA the other night. We were over at ESD. We are, yeah. So the first part of your packet, the vote is for Tom Chenez, Glendale, District 77, to abstain, which to abstain, you have to have a reason if we're not voting. No action taken is also effectively a no vote. So I think unless the board has a specific reason not to, we're sort of passing this one along as the only person running. But he does have to get a majority of a vote. So abstention and no action taken could potentially cause a person not to get voted into that seat. Since he's running unopposed, I don't have any information for or against. And when do these have to be turned in, John? You guys need to take action in this meeting unless you want to hold a special session later on before December.
There's nothing that really stands out to me in terms of opposition for, on his application. Um,
So,
He's willing to throw his hat in the ring.
so
I don't see any reason to oppose.
your action on this B1 item of your agenda would be to, an action to either vote, abstain, or take no action, and then you can do a second, and then a vote of the five.
That he's going to jump in there, and
Pardon?
so if he's going to jump in,
Employee of the month at Pelican Day. Wow. Okay.
Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we vote for Tom Chen as Glendale 77 for the LPC position 9.
A second,
Motion made by Carrie O, seconded by Bob, that we vote for Bob Shannon to position 9 for the LFC. All in favor, signify by saying yes.
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 Anybody opposed? Thank you, Bob, or Tom, for your support.
Resolution number 1 was also presented to you the other night at the ESD, and you're voting yes to adopt the resolution as written. The bylaws are attached, but the resolution, the first page, is what you're adopting, or you're voting no, do not adopt. You're abstaining or not taking action. Again, no action could result in not having a majority of the votes and causing it to fail.
You want a motion?
Please.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution 1, which creates Oregon Rural School Board Members Caucus and designate a seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committees.
Second.
Motion made by Carrie O and seconded by Bonnie Moore to adopt the OSBA member caucus and designate a seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee. All those in favor by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried unanimously.
Resolution 2, very similarly, for adopting the proposed amendments. Again, you're adopting the resolution. The amendments and the bylaws are attached in there as well.
I make a motion to accept resolution 2, adopts the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws.
Second,
Also, got it, John, or Jack?
motion been made by Bonnie Brewer and seconded by Jack Daly to adopt the proposed amendment for the OSBA bylaws. All in favor, let's say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
And your copy goes to the,
Pardon?
your copy goes to the powers that be.
Yeah. Okay, moving into the small debt policy rewrite.
Boy.
You have a couple of items carried over from last month, policies JBB, and there was question and confusion about JECF. JBB is selected and underlined in the, I guess call it red, purple ink. That will be pushed forward. The clarification on JECF, one of them did not contain the designation of being an AR. So in your packet, the final 2 pages are the AR and they're handwritten in there, but that's why there was confusion about 2 versions of the policy written 2 ways. The one that's now listed as the AR is an AR, which doesn't require any board action. So you're dealing with deleting version 1, and we need the language, so you would be adopting version 2, which has the yes on it. And we're not worried about AR because that's an administrative function. Questions on the second readings I can help you with?
You ready? I'll make a motion to adopt the small desk policy rewrite, numbers 1, 2, and 3 from last board meeting as recommended.
Second.
Been made by Kerry O, seconded by Bonnie Brewer to adopt the JCBB, JECF, and JECF version 2. All opposed, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, carries unanimously.
So the rest of it is the policy. I think we've done this a bunch of times, so we're pretty well versed. I'm just going to read the number rather than policy name. I'll go real slow. And if we have questions, we can address them or discuss them. And if you just let us know which one you want to have pulled out. So action item D for dog, number 1, policy 1. Checking policy 2. Policy 3. Policy 4. Do I dare ask if there's any questions on particular policies and just drill that mechanism? Are there any questions on these policies? Pull out. Speed that up. Okay, then please go to number 40, 40. JHHB, I'm going to recommend no action in be taken. This was an optional one, and we've followed that course pretty steadily throughout. Number 46, JO, I'm going to recommend no action. We've covered that in policy chapter I. So it's already addressed, and it indicates that if we've addressed it in I, we don't need it in J. So I'm going to recommend no action on number 46, JO. And number 49, I'm going to recommend no action as well. We've got that addressed. It's optional.
So keep our unupdated version or delete our current version.
Now I gotta go look.
Sorry.
I just made my shorthand notes. No, this is a new one and it's optional.
It says update. It's not proposed.
Okay, I see. On number 49, I recommend delete.
Delete.
Recommend, yeah, we delete.
And you said the reason for no action on 40 JHHB is that all of the administrative action and policy is already covered in other areas in the school.
Trauma informed it's a hot topic legislatively across the state, and there's a lot of things where we do address it. We just approved our SIA dollars, and we have staffing working at trauma informed student supports. It has to be there. It's part of our Division 22 obligations that we try to follow. So having policy on something a little bit redundantly here, I'm not a fan of policies like that when it's already addressed and it's not required. It is a hot topic legislatively. In the next couple of years, it might come down as a required policy. There may be an update, in which case we would need to address it then. But right now, it's addressed. 40, no action. 46, no action. And 49, recommend delete. questions on any of those or any of the 49?
Go ahead.
Make a motion to adopt small desk policy rewrite, second half of section J, item numbers 1 through 39. Items 41 through 44. And items 46 through 48 as recommended, and to delete item 49.
Point of order.
Do we have to?
Number 46 was recommendation of no action. And 45 is recommended for delete as proposed. The second half of your action, was to go 41 through 44 and did not address 45. I think you missed the numbering there.
Don't we just take no action, or do you?
No, we have to delete that policy. So 41 through 45.
So that's the recommendation, so why were you?
Yeah,
I'm
you said 44, we need to say 45.
Yeah. You left out 45.
So. So as I was understanding, you were saying no action on 45.
46.
46.
46.
Yes,
Oh.
JO. One says keep.
45 we're gonna delete.
Well, 46 is JOIGBAB.
Yeah.
Okay.
45 is
45 we're
deleting
gonna
the
keep,
original.
okay.
And then 46.
Sorry, I was going off of your written note from the other day, so.
Copy, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about
Okay,
that.
so I apologize. Amend that to say 41 through 45, we would approve as recommended. And then you want to delete 46?
I recommend delete on number 45.
Okay, recommend delete 46 and 49 and adopt 47 and 48 as recommended. Is that confusing enough?
That works.
Did you get that, Sharman?
Clear as mud, right?
I got it written down, Sharman.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved by Kerry and seconded by Jack Daly on the approvals and the no actions. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carries unanimously. I would like to mention that my use of Tylenol has gone up quite a bit while going through you and all these. Okay. Moving on, first reading, 2023-24 school board operating agreement, and can we do them both together?
This is the discussion, and this is what you worked on with Vince. We were able to first reading. Vince told you in your work session he would return these products to you. Recommends it first reading, so sending it home is homework. Maybe between the four of you who are going to be up in Portland, some discussion about, is this what we said? Is this what we intended? And then bring it back in December to formalize these as your operating agreements for the school year.
I'm not seeing a copy in my package. Does anybody else have copies in your package?
You want to borrow mine?
No, I don't want to take yours.
It was behind the discussion tab.
Right here, in the
It'd be
very, I think it's the very end of the pack.
the red.
You can have mine. Because I know where to get more copies.
Oh, weird. Thank you.
So you don't need any action on this. This is what Vince promised he would return, and we just got it, so I would recommend first reading. We sure that's what we want, make sure there's any corrections or updates. This is the product of your work session.
This is homework, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, and it might be topic table discussion when you're having dinner at OSBA. It's
Riveting.
really.
Okay, let's move on to board member comments. Bob,
I'm good.
I'm good.
Jack, good, Bonnie?
I am looking forward to we finished up with all the policies.
Amen. There you go.
One more month.
I think I'm good.
All right.
Chairman, you skipped over the community comments. We probably need to check the online piece. Look, I think. I won't touch much, Al, I promise. Chat.
John, there are no comments.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. No community comments.
Okay. Future agendas, November 9th through the 11th, of course, we're going to be up at Portland. Travel safely, please. December 6th and 8th is the 43rd annual Oregon School Law Conference. Lisa, Jerry, and John will be attending that. December 13th, 2023, 5:30 p.m. will be the monthly school board meeting. And then January 10th, 2024, not 23, Sherman, will be at 5:30 be the monthly school board meeting. And then OSACOA and OASE Winter Conference. John will be attending that on the 24th, and 25th, 26th of January.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask your board preference on your December 13th board meeting, regularly scheduled 5:30 start time. I know there's going to be executive session needed for that meeting. Would you want to start earlier or stay later?
Let's start earlier.
Well, if we suggested a 4 o'clock start time for executive session, you have Florence. Can you?
No, I'm not scheduled out yet, so that's fine. I don't think.
I know there's executive session that night. There's student issues that will be brought up, and
4
I would suggest an hour. I would suggest an hour.
4 o'clock, cool.
It's fine.
Okay, executive session start at 4 that night.
Yeah.
Okay.
John, I will, or Chair, actually. We probably want to address the timing of accepted comments. For example, the session this time still said by 3 p.m. So I kind of adjusted that when I was talking to a community member this morning, and said, just please have your comments in by 9. I said 3 hours, but we might want to adjust that for December, and then in future, moving it back to 2 or 1, depending on if we're leaving a 3-hour buffer.
Usually when they come through email, it's hard to discover them sometimes because we only check email at regular times during the day. This one got hand delivered kind of at the last minute, so we knew it was there. But I see what you're saying. But we need to be sure that we're accounting for that, or just
That's
putting
public
into the
record.
record. Okay.
So that one's 4 o'clock on the 13th?
4
Yes.
o'clock on the 13th, executive session prior to the board meeting.
John, speaking of times for the board meetings, this board meeting here held at noon today, I had some comments from members in our district that they were not happy there wasn't a forewarning as to the reasoning why the district was having the board meeting at noon.
There was plenty of forewarning.
That is not, excuse me, that is not true. I put explanations on absolutely everything I sent out as to why the meeting was made earlier.
Well, that's what I reiterated, but I think what they were talking about is that, especially with school district employees, that they were not specifically notified as to the rationale for that, so they could not chime in. Although I know that a lot of people don't chime in anyway, to the board meetings and ask questions, so.
We got some information from staff that were went over it during executive session. And it was able to get submitted. Noon is not convenient for staff to while they're working. It's probably not a desirable time,
Right.
but it was advertised.
Yes, I know it was advertised, but I just wanted to let you know that was what was reiterated to me, so. And I told them why, but anyway,
Okay, having all informations dispersed and no other questions, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Drive safely, four of you. When are you driving away? It's the agreed upon leave time.
What's that?
When is the agreed upon leave time?
In about 3 minutes, as soon as I feel like coffee cup with tea.
I have to run home and get my bag.
Did you want to leave your